Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of HR Leaders Live. Today, we have a very special show. We are at Johnson & Johnson's global headquarters here in New Brunswick. I'm joined by our host, Piyush Mathur, who's actually hosted our HR Innovation Roundtable today, our first one in North America. So it's an absolutely incredible day of workshops and discussions. Piyush, you just finished leading your session. How was it for you? Well, one, hosting, and hopefully you don't regret hosting us today. And secondly, how was the session for you in terms of the feedback that you got as well?
Not at all. So I would host you again, Chris.
Thank you.
I think it was phenomenal. Just the way you guys lead the session, the format of the session just stands out. For me, so much of interaction and so much of networking. I think that's what this is all about. Mm-hmm. Learning and sharing in this space is the biggest thing because we are continuously evolving. I learned a lot myself today, and I think the people from Johnson & Johnson who joined us for the session learned a lot too. Mm-hmm. So I think it was very useful for us.
Fantastic. What was the main thing that you wanted to get out of your own session today? As you know, part of our audience, part of our format is for our facilitators is about giving as much back to you as you're giving to the audience, right?
Yeah.
Everyone who attends our session is a senior HR executive from a global brand, so they bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the workshop too. So what was your aim of today? What did you want to get out of it personally?
Yeah, personally, I mean, I'm working on a live case where we're really trying to understand the skills of our employees. And the context to that is we are now embracing the fourth industrial revolution. We are going into it, which is really around the skills and what you will need for the future, because every business is transforming. Chris, many times I tell people that if you're in a company where the business is not transforming, think again whether you're in the right company.
You might not have a company soon.
Yeah, because there's no player, there's no company that can afford to remain stagnant. Mm-hmm. I think you have to continuously evolve. And when that company is evolving, it's so much about looking at new skills. What are the future skills? Everybody wants digital, e-commerce, data science. All of us are like thinking of how do we plan for it. So one of the big questions I had for the group was really around how do you measure those skills? And then how do you utilize that in your own HR systems, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the big question I had. And I had 30 people in the room with their horsepower talking to us about what is possible. And we found at least 2 people who were pretty much ahead in the journey. Yeah.
And there's always someone in the room.
Yes.
That can add that and you think about it a little bit differently. That's the whole goal. But you shared some great examples. And I think one of the core questions I always get when I speak to our listeners is, what does workforce analytics mean to you and why is it so important for businesses?
I think personally what it means to me is to improve people's lives. Because when you give them a better job fit, when you make them do more of what they're passionate about, it actually has an impact on your life. So imagine, I can improve 140,000 lives at J&J by doing workforce analytics. So there's always that lens that I've put in front of me on the contribution I make to each person's life. For the company, it's better business through better people decisions. Mm-hmm. Now there is so much data and there's so much evidence-based decisions that we can make that we couldn't do in the past.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that the gut will go away, but I think gut combined with the data can really make us take better people decisions, which will ultimately lead to better business outcomes.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you spoke about earlier is that, and we saw in the group, is a lot of the CHROs we're working with and come along, they seem to overcomplicate. When they think about, people analytics, workforce analytics, they think that they need all these flashy tools, data scientists, but you gave some fantastic examples, very simple examples of simply using Excel, right? Yeah. Could you share some of those examples that you shared with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it can be daunting that, I'm not big enough, I don't have the resources to go for analytics. But the simplest way to think about it is having some data. And the example I was giving was if you have 1,000 employees in your company, and if half of them are male and half of them are female, that's data. You can actually start using that data. And I assume 1,000 people company would have access to Excel.
Yeah, I hope so.
So you put that data into 2 columns and you can start doing analytics to say, how do they look, the gender ratio looks across different levels. does it drop as we go higher up in the organization?
Which we saw a lot today.
A lot. Yes.
But in the entry level, is the women were really high, but then throughout their career, it kind of went slowly down, while the males went up, and you had that sort of X. We saw that across a lot of the diagrams, which was very shocking, I'll be honest.
Yes, and all of that analysis could be done in Excel. That becomes your starting point. You start taking initiatives to make sure that X doesn't happen, and it changes right in the future. And that's it. That's a start to your analytics journey right there.
Yeah. What's your advice for people when they say, where do I get started? Because a lot of times people come into this and they try and solve everything. Yeah. And they go in so many different directions, right? So where do we start? What's a good place to start?
I think the good place to start is to ask the question, what does the fact tell me? What is the data behind what I'm trying to answer? Is there any data that I can lay my hands on? So rather than just taking the decision and saying that, oh, I have less women on the top, if I had data by my side, I would look at the data first to say, okay, this is a reality. It's not just my perception.
Yeah.
Now I can start taking some initiatives and action. So I think the starting point is really asking yourself, what is the data I have?
Well, you mentioned there's so many data sources now that we have access to. Use LinkedIn's new talent intelligence solution, right?
Yep.
As an example, could you share some of the examples you use there?
Yeah. So LinkedIn Talent Insights is a tool that was launched sometime end of last year. We were actually one of the first clients who got access to that tool. You can look at so many aspects of your own workforce, aggregated level, and you can look at and compare it with your competition. So you could say, what are the number of people I have in my sales force in the Northeast in the US versus my competitors. You can see their tenure, you can see their attrition, the companies that they're coming from and going to. All of that is possible. But that's maybe running operations. If I zoom out and take a strategic view, then I could start thinking of companies that I am looking as potential acquisitions and start looking at their talent and saying what are the expertise that they have, and is it a company that has high attrition? So what's happening there? So I could take some strategic decisions based on that.
Yeah.
So those are like some of the use cases.
Simple, and as you said earlier, it's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
It's easy.
One click. I actually played around with the solution at LinkedIn's conference, and I was on site, and I had an opportunity to use it, and I was like, it's so easy.
Yes.
You don't have to be a data scientist.
Totally.
You don't have to be, I'm the opposite of analytical. Shane will tell you, my co-founder Shane will tell you that Chris does not do finance. Just keep him straight away from that. But even I was using the tool and getting amazing different types of things that I could find on there, even about our own competitors, which is very interesting as well. And seeing which areas there's a talent shortage, or if you're going to move into a new region, you can go and see what talent exists in that region, and where it's located, which companies, etc. And just having that immediately can help you make a decision. Do we want to open an office here or not?
Yeah,
simple.
I mean, you decide, back to our discussion, the skills that you will need for the future.
Exactly.
Data
Where
science.
Where are they located?
Where are they located? You strategically take your location strategy to that location.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we found like Washington D.C. is a hidden gem.
Really?
For data science skills.
I wouldn't have said that.
No,
you should have said that out loud then. You just told everyone now.
It's good. You've got to have a talent brand that attracts people to your brand.
Yeah.
It's an open world out there. You can just log into LinkedIn and look at that information. It's more about building the purpose of your company. And for us at J&J, it's all about our credo. It's something that focuses on the doctors, patients, and nurses, employees, the community we serve, and the shareholders. And to me, when I take the employee lens, there is so much that we can help them with growing in their career.
You also, a lot of what we're talking about today in your session as well is about looking inside your own organization, and we're not doing a great job of understanding the skills that already exist in our own businesses.
Yes.
Someone that's been there for 10 years, you have the original CV with their skill set. 10 years later, I'm sure they've advanced a little bit more, right? And I've seen a lot of the analytics leaders like yourself that I've spoken to, most of their team members have come within their own organization from other departments.
Yes.
And you've also experienced that, right?
Yes. And, like we talk about diversity and inclusion, right? So in my team, for example, of about 25 people, we have people from our IT function, from our finance function, from our commercial function, and of course HR. And within HR, it's not just analytics folks, it's people who've done BU HR roles, other kind of roles. Then of course we have the traditional IO psychologists in our team, which are required as we analyze human behavior. So yeah, I mean it's diversity of thought.
Yeah.
You put a team together. By the way, Chris, it's not just relevant in the space of analytics. It's relevant for every team.
Yeah, as we realize today, throughout the
Exactly.
session, more and more now.
Yes.
And there's so many companies, the recruiters immediately, they just straight away look outside.
Yeah.
Because they don't have access to the data.
Yes.
Unfortunately. And that was one of your biggest questions today, right? With the group of how we can do that. And once we know what skills exist in the organization, that's a tough task as it is already. But then your next question was, what do we do with that? What were some of the examples that were brought up today?
Yeah, I mean, the parallel I would draw is what we go through in our lives. So you go to Netflix and it's telling you should be watching these other movies, right?
Yeah.
Or these shows because you've watched one of them. Similar thing here in as a employee, I would like to have that experience where it's coming to me and telling me, listen, there is a job that just opened up. Would you be interested? And I click yes, and then there it goes to the recruiter because it's already looked in the background that I was a good match for this particular job that opened. Imagine the learning piece was like that. Imagine if I was paid based on my skills. I think that's where the future of work is going. It's going to be a lot about gig economy, gig workers.
We're already seeing it, right?
Skills based. It's already there, right? But we are somewhere lagging behind in that future of work. And I think we are all catching up. We are all making that effort on understanding those skills and start moving more towards that.
I'm seeing it in my own company. We're a young business, and a lot of the work we do, we hire in skills externally through things like Fiverr.com. We hire in designers, website builders, etc. And I'm looking for their skills. I'm searching for their skills and their capabilities. I find them online. I hire them for a few months. They build an incredible product for us, and then that's it. We're off to the next one, as opposed to hiring someone full time.
Yeah, I mean, a great example is like data science skills. World Economic Forum has called out that that's one skill that every industry in every geography will require, and we don't have that kind of supply. For the demand that it's going to generate.
Your one came from supply chain, right?
Sorry? Yes, our data science person
from within the supply chain
who built the HR algorithm.
How did you convince them to come over to HR?
HR is involved in every function, right? So we had a HR person who said, we should go there. And of course, he was supporting the data science function in supply chain. So he actually got us introduced, and then the leader was very supportive. And then they helped us build this algorithm where we could do the matching. Yeah. So, data science, I think it's going to be a big skill. There will be huge demand for it. There will be less supply, and that's why you should be looking inside the company. And
they're leaving faster than, like you guys said earlier. One of the biggest attrition rates in companies is those. We identified the top skills, and then we saw that the people that are leaving the companies the quickest are those people with the skills,
and are the ones that you want in the future, right? The future skills, right? But also another insight we found, like data science, yes, we will go and recruit from outside, we'll attract that talent, but how do we build talent from inside? So one of our analytics on LinkedIn actually told us that if you had to learn Python, the base skill you need to have is R. So if you know the language R, you were best suited to learn Python. That was analysis done by LinkedIn of all the people who knew Python, also knew R. Right? So we turned that lens on our company, and we found people who had R skills that could be trained for Python. Incredible. There you go. So
you would never have been able to get that insight any other way. There's no way.
There's no way.
Being able to do that. So that's the power of it.
There is a gut feeling you can have, but but evidence-based.
You can't just go into the boardroom with a gut feeling.
That's true.
You were speaking about the language that you also. One of the things that you spoke about earlier, which reached out to me, is the language you use in the team is very different to when you present to the board.
Yes.
And part of to be a successful leader in your field, you have to be able to tell that story.
Yes.
In a language that they can relate to. Is that something you've had to learn along the way yourself?
Yeah.
Or fail and learn quickly how not to do it?
For me, it's easier to speak the business language because I spent 20 years running businesses. So for me, that comes naturally. I'm learning the HR lingo.
So that way around.
But that's where I bring in this perspective. Diversity of thought, right? So I bring in that perspective of, oh, if you're going to a business leader, don't use these words.
Yeah.
Like use this one will really resonate. Talk about incremental growth, incremental revenue, profitability, that will resonate well. Then, some of the things around basic talent efficiency matrix. So I think that's the one that kind of really resonates.
Yeah. Well, listen, I would love to keep talking, but we've had a long day. We've been here for the past 10 hours, right, today? Yes. So we've got our group of HR executives waiting for us for a drink in the bar. So we're going to leave you guys. Thank you so much for hosting. It was a pleasure. We're so excited that you agreed to host us. It was a long trip to get here, but definitely worth it as well. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us.